It's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome to my channel where I make cake and cookie decorating tutorials. I also do a little bit of baking, and I throw in a lot of baking business tips. So you obviously clicked on this video because you want to know, did I make more money as a home baking business, or do I make more money as a baking YouTuber? You also might want to know why I switched careers and what I am doing now. But before we get into that, I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of both, and then I am going to give you close to the exact dollar that I made, somewhere in the ballpark, because I actually can't quite remember to a T how much I made as a home baking business, but it's going to be fairly accurate. So let's get into it. So firstly, let's talk about how my baking business was run. Now, if you've seen any of my videos before, I have gone in depth about this. So I'm just going to give you the general overview so that you have a good understanding of how I come to the figure that I'm going to tell you about later on. So basically, in the beginning of my home baking business, like most of you, I probably charged pennies, and literally I was making maybe a $10 profit off of my orders. Now you're probably wondering, why does this happen? Was this a mistake? And I actually think it's kind of the growing pains that naturally happen with the home baking business. I mean, you can't charge bakery level prices because, for myself at least, my skill level was not there. There's a difference between liking somebody else's style and actually making mistakes and having that go out as an order. I made plenty of mistakes. Air bubbles in my cookies, just not sharp edges on my cakes, things that could easily fall apart and weren't very sturdy. And yeah, those types of orders go out the door. But people don't tend to mind as much because you're literally charging like $30 for maybe 24 cookies. And I believe that actually is a price that I did charge. So I feel like in the beginning, it's not really a true reflection of where this baking business can take you. So let's fast forward into the more lucrative parts of my business. If you guys don't know, I'm a teacher and I do that full time. So anytime I talk about my home baking business, it's always something that is part-time, with the exception of those summer months. So during the year, I would say I would just kind of randomly select when I was going to take on orders. But I would say on average, and I'm totally guessing, I think maybe around 4 to 5 orders a week is what I would take on. And I would probably make somewhere in the ballpark of maybe $75 to about $250 per order. Now, these orders could range from something quite large to something a little bit more small. I was known for cookies, and I didn't really get into cakes that much until a little bit later on. So because I established myself as the cookie lady, I received a lot of cookie orders. And I'm going to be upfront and honest with you guys, making cookies is not as lucrative as making cakes. Mainly because making a cake is a lot faster. Because I find cookies are small and they're very individualized, and you can't charge really the prices that you are worth. In terms of, you can't really charge $10 a cookie and expect somebody to purchase it unless it's something super, super, super intricate. And you guys know I am all for charging your worth, but I just find it a little bit more tricky when it comes to cookieing because cookies are so small, they're flat. People look with their eyes and think that they're getting more product when they look at a cake. And I guess a slice of cake is probably going to fill you up more than, say, a little cookie like this. So I was known as the cookie lady. I still made good money, but it was slower going when I was just focusing more on cookies. Now let's get into the summer months because I think that gives you a very, very good picture of how it would be like if I actually switched over to my home baking business full time, which I know a lot of you have been thinking about, and I'm probably going to make a future video on how you know you're ready to actually change over. So in those summer months, I would take on any order and every order. Pretty much if somebody ordered from me, I would say yes. So I was doing around 10 to 15 orders on my own. So this made things very, very hectic. So what did I make? I'm going to preface this by saying all of the dollar amounts that I'm going to talk to you about are prior to paying any taxes. And I get a lot of taxes taken off because the way that it works here, and I'm sure it works this way in many other places as well, is when you're in a particular income bracket, then as soon as you cross over the threshold into another income bracket, you're paying a lot higher taxes. So because I already had my full-time job, then I also taught piano on the side as well. That was a lot of income too, and I was doing this cake thing on the side, so pretty much you can guess I was paying a lot in taxes, and I wasn't making as much from the home baking business as I could have if that was my only source of income, which is why I'm going to be talking to you about this before any deductions whatsoever. Also, I am not a tax expert, I am not an accountant, so please, I won't be able to answer any questions regarding that. So in those summer months, I made anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 per month. $4,000 to $6,000 sounds like, wow, that is a lot of money. Maybe for some of you it isn't, but for me, it was a lot of money to make from something that I didn't go to university for. I was completely self-taught. So to see that type of income coming in was amazing. However, it all comes at a price, and it all came at a price for me. Because I had too many things going on, I eventually had to drop one, and I had to drop my home baking business. It was after I had my second child. Actually, I think it was just before I had my second child that I decided I'm gonna slow down, I'm just gonna teach piano, and I'm just going to teach full-time, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not gonna get super into it, but piano teaching made a lot of money as well with way less cost. But what I mean by that is, A, I didn't really have to invest in any materials. The only material I had to invest in was my piano. Whereas with baking, it is ever changing. You always have to keep investing. Even when you think you're done buying tools, you're never really done because there's another cake trend that comes out or a cookie trend that comes out that you need something. And if you're going to be making more than 100 of said items, you're going to need it. You can get by with your X-Acto knife for quite a long time, but there are just some tools that you will need to invest in. So that's why I ended up choosing that path. This is not me trying to discourage you from becoming an at-home baker or pursuing your dreams of being an at-home baker and moving into maybe a bakery storefront. This is just me explaining why I did what I did. On top of that, you guys know dealing with customers is very challenging, and it can be very emotionally taxing on you as well. When you are a home baker, it is not just, oh, I bake baked goods and I do the thing that I love and then I give it away and everyone's happy. You have to be on at all times. And if you guys have watched any of my past videos, especially the one where I talk about professionalism and the ways that you're making your bakery look unprofessional, that in and of itself is a huge, huge thing. You are not just a baker or a decorator. You are a business person. And that is a whole other level of responsibilities than just simply baking and being like, here you go. And this is why I think people underestimate home bakers a lot, because it's not just that. It's not as simple as that. And for myself, I wanted more simplicity, and that's why I moved into my baking YouTube channel. So long story short, we all were under restrictions last year starting in March, and I had nothing to do. But that being said, I stopped my home baking business, and there was a big gap where I wasn't really doing anything for baking. I was still doing it. I would still randomly decorate a cake, or I would make cookies, and I was really starting to get into making over-the-top parties, but completely for free. I wasn't making any money whatsoever from my baking. It was purely a passion, which was really, really nice. So I think that lasted for about a year maybe, where I wasn't actually selling anything, and I was just doing baking projects for me. And I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed that year. So if you find yourself overwhelmed, I highly, highly recommend that you go and you do that. You take time for yourself. That's the other nice thing about the home baking business is you can stop and start whenever you want, especially when you get to a level where people want your work. People want the exclusivity of your work. You can do that and you can come back and be relatively unscathed. If I wanted to right now, I could probably pick up some more orders too. A lot of you guys asked me if I ever would go back into baking for business. I don't want to ever say never, but probably not. And I'm going to tell you right now why. So with YouTube, it's a completely different ball game. Now, if you want to be a YouTuber that has millions and millions of subscribers, there are a myriad of ways to get to that point. I'm guessing, I don't know, I'm not a million subscriber channel, but I am sure there are lots of different ways to get there. And the way that I have been running my channel is I've been making the things that I want to make, and then I upload it to YouTube. And that's basically the simplicity of it. And I don't have to answer to anyone. Of course, I love hearing my subscribers and I love hearing your ideas and what you actually want to see. But when it comes down to it, if there is an upset customer with my home baking business, I have to do something to placate them and to fix the situation. And even if it's not something that is my issue, if it's not something that's my fault, I still have to try to fix it, or I have to deal with maybe a possible negative review that I'm going to have to answer. But when it comes to YouTube, if I don't do something that somebody likes or something that somebody cares for, there really is no consequence to that. Sure, somebody could write something or comment on something that's negative, but I have a lot more control when it comes to my channel than when I do when somebody is complaining. Having the autonomy of my channel and what I want to make as a baking business is huge. So those are the pros of being on YouTube. You can pretty much do whatever you want. If I have a cake idea that pops into my head, I just go and I make it and I do it. And having that freedom is so nice, because when you are a home baking business, you have to do the orders that people ask you. And I know there's some of you out there that have done your 56th unicorn cake and you are over it. That's why I have been loving YouTube, because I get to do what I want to do. I also don't have to make things in vast amounts. So although, yes, I do the intricate cookie here and there, I do an intricate cake here and there, because I'm not being dictated by anybody what it is that I have to do. If something isn't going right, I can just switch gears and change it to something else if I want to. Whereas when you're doing an order and something isn't going right, it could take you hours to fix whatever it is that is going wrong. So that is another huge pro of YouTube as well. But let's get into the money part of YouTube, because I know that that is something that probably a lot of you are interested in. I know even before I became a YouTuber, I always wanted to know what YouTubers made. So like I said, with my home baking business, I made anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 a month when I was doing it kind of full-time-ish. Now YouTube as well, I'm not really doing it full-time, but what is a full-time YouTuber? I'm not really sure what a full-time YouTuber is, but I'm going to say that I do it frequently. I mean, I upload daily, so that is quite a bit of time. But am I working a 40-hour week with all of the things that I do on YouTube? I'm not really sure. There is a lot of editing that goes into it, but my editing is fairly quick. And especially because I'm still working off my phone, I'm working on getting a camera, guys. But because I'm still working off my phone, things are relatively quick. So again, I would say I am dedicating a lot of time to my channel, but I'm definitely not putting in nearly as many hours as I did when I was running my home baking business. So you could probably look up my actual stats on Social Blade, I think, but I'm going to be giving you some rounded stats. They're very, very close. So it took 7 months to actually get monetized. So unlike your home baking business, you are making money right off the bat with your home baking business. Whereas with YouTube, it's a guess. You might not make money for a year. I think they say on average anywhere from like a year and a half, I think, is the normal time period to actually get monetized if you're being consistent. So I managed to get monetized in about 7 months, but I do know that people have gotten monetized a lot faster as well. So that's the thing with that. It is a little bit of a guess if you're going to get monetized and when you're going to get monetized. So once I got monetized, it was, I think October 25th was my first full day of actually having ads and things on my channel. Now keep in mind, at this point, I think I already had about 200 videos, I wanna say, that were up on my channel. So I got to add a lot of ads in and all at once. So from October 25th to November 1st, I think is the cutoff. They cut it off on the 1st of every month, I believe. I made $50 Canadian or somewhere in that ballpark. And then the second month I made around $300. And then in the third month I made around $1,300. And now in January I'm making around $1,400, I think was the last time I checked. And that's the thing with YouTube too. It is exponential, but things can go up and down all over the place. As somebody who has watched a lot of different YouTubers and how much they make each month, it is so up and down. Whereas with a home baking business, I could be like, oh, I'm not making as much this month, and I really want to go save up for a trip this year. You can clearly tell that wasn't in 2020, but I really want to save up for a trip, so I'm going to take on a few more orders. And that's basically how I would run my home baking business. Even if I felt overwhelmed or stressed, I knew, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to be able to get X amount of money. But with a YouTube channel, you can't do that. I mean, sure, you know which types of videos are probably going to garner more views, but again, that doesn't always translate into money either, because you can get lots of views, but your rate of pay is different every month. So it's a very up and down thing. Has it been financially lucrative for me? Yeah, I mean, having that little extra sum of money on top of what I make from my main job is awesome, because it's something that I didn't have before. So for me personally, switching over to YouTube just allowed me the creative freedom, and it allowed me more time with my kids because I can schedule doing YouTube stuff around their schedule for the most part. But whereas when I had my home baking business, if a cake was due at a certain time, I had to have that cake done at a certain time. But you'll notice with my YouTube channel, I upload at random times of the day all the time. I'm really liking the freedom of YouTube, and I love being able to connect with so many more people. So that is the full explanation of why I transitioned my home baking business into a baking YouTube channel, and why I really am enjoying what I'm doing now a lot more than when I was running my home baking business. I am a lot less stressed. I don't have to deal with deadlines, and most importantly, I don't have to deal with the worry of a customer possibly being upset with their order. Now, I should say that I really didn't get that many customer complaints, so I don't really know where that comes from, but it's just the fear that maybe they would be upset with something, because all of my home baking friends, they've all gone through it. We've all had at least one or two customers be upset. If someone's upset with me on YouTube, it's a lot easier to deal with. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Speedy fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye.